So I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Organizational Psychology. I'm also the Assistant Dean for Equalities and Diversity in the School of BEI. So my research, broadly speaking, relates to the issue of unequal working lives. And some of the topics I've explored recently include agile working and the impact of agile working in terms of how it affects different groups of workers unequally. I've also looked at the gendered and racialized experiences of office housework in the professional space. So who gets asked to do things like making the tea, organizing parties, or leaving presents. Those are the things that come under the broad umbrella of office housework. And research has shown that people who get asked to do those things, it tends to be gendered and racialized. And also that kind of work, although is work, isn't counted towards career progression or promotion. And the last project I've worked on recently and currently working on as well is the topic of workers, men and women, who use assisted fertility treatment in order to have a family, and how do they navigate that journey whilst working for an organization. And so some of those are some of the topics that I've covered in my research under this broad umbrella of unequal working lives. The implications of my work relates directly to the issue of equity, equality in terms of gender. That's because the work that I do uses gender as a lens to understand how people's working lives are shaped and experienced differently in unequal ways. And the lens that I use alongside gender is a social justice lens, which recognizes that there are unequal opportunities and distribution of resources, and also access to education, access to wealth. And so there's a difference in distribution in all those resources that can really make a difference to people's working lives and their lives in general. And so research actually acknowledges that how people can access these different resources is very much based on the intersection of gender and race, as well as other forms of social inequalities. How that relates to the issue of sustainability, if we're talking about having a sustainable workforce, what does the term sustainability actually mean? And in my work, the issue of sustainability really questions how it connects with social justice. Sustainability, through the work that I do, really is about how can we ensure that the inequalities that we see in people's working lives can be addressed through better policy and better practices in organizations that recognizes that inequalities are systemic and structural, and it's not about deficits in individuals, but rather due to the differences in opportunities that people have in society in the first place. International Women's Day, for me, is an opportunity to keep on having a conversation. And it is a reminder on an annual basis that the work of equity and equality for gender parity is not done. Even working in this institution that I am in, we have a gender pay gap, and many organizations have this gender pay gap. And gender pay gap, how it's measured, is not about paying men and women differently, but rather the gender pay gap reflects the distribution of roles that men and women tend to get in an organization. So having a gender pay gap tells us that there are more men in positions higher along the organizational structure and hierarchy than there are women. And so it invites us to have questions, to ask questions around why are women not in those positions of power that men in an organization get to occupy? So for me, the day itself is an opportunity to celebrate, but more importantly, to reflect and to continue to push and ask questions so that it continues to drive change. Thank you.